Psychopaths once again, as I say every video, the greatest anime of all time and one I'm always happy to address. But in my previous videos there's been a theme, Makashima. He's my favorite character to talk about and I did so frequently, eventually addressing Kogami separately as well to complete the dynamic duo of philosophy within Psychopaths. But there was something mostly missing, Akane. I was always so focused on the other two, I didn't slow down to look at the junior inspector and just how much she added to this world. Sure, she's the middle ground framing for the more extremely conflicted characters, an audience surrogate to make this world feel more natural, and a love interest for easy emotion, but there's also so much more to her. From her humble beginnings to her badass conclusion, the Psychopaths world would be amiss without Akane, and it's time we give her some proper attention. Akane ends the series with one goal in mind: to advance society past the Sibyl system. Not to destroy it and bring a new world order, and not to follow it blindly, but use it until the people are ready to ascend above its dictatorial grasp. But she takes a long journey to get there, one that started in a much different place. Let's go back to that beginning and see what she originally thought. All the way back. No, not there, further back, to the stuff we never see but know about her. Akane is someone who hasn't changed much. Like her hue, she's quite static and bright. Her friends make us aware of this, and her generally happy attitude would suggest she had quite the positive childhood and teenage years. We know from Joji Saiga that Akane is a grandma's girl, the pride and joy of a sweet old woman who only wants to see her thrive, and find confirmation of this in Season 2's rushed, but still present use of the concept. Nurtured, happy, and sheltered as those with clear hues are, she was able to maintain perfect grades and graduate at the top of her class. Needless to say, this would have taken work, however, meaning she probably devoted less time to extra activities than those around her, even increasing her shielded nature. So at the age of 22, she joins the MWPSB proper, and we have quite the full picture of Akane. Young and naive, trusting to a fault, joyful and nervous despite her inbuilt confidence. She's succeeded all of the time, but still looks to others in most situations. She led the ideal life of Sibyl, a clear-hued citizen who enjoyed every bounty it had to offer, apparent in its high regard of her aptitude. She is what Sibyl wants to see, and Sibyl is all she has seen. One of the important factors of this is that she's a follower more than a leader, despite her abilities. This is one of the most apparent factors of her character, as she follows Masaoka's lead at almost every turn in episode 1. From his literal directions to his experience and words, and copying his exact actions in the hostage situation. Sure, this is somewhat due to inexperience, as Ganoza just drops her in like that, but she's also a smart woman with 4 years of training. And after being told not to trust the enforcers, she follows one just like that. And she's shocked at how normal he seems during all of this. These first scenes show a lot about her. Initial questioning of Sibyl, her fresh mindset for the MWPSB, respect for humanity, and a lot more. But I think more than all of that, it shows she really has no problem being led through life at the start of the series. This comes up again in episode 2 as she confesses to agonizing over purpose in life. With top scores for every job, there was no path laid out for her like most have. Whether latent criminal or regular citizen, most of them have their fate decided. Akane didn't, and she struggled with the decision left before her, picking the MWPSB only because no one else in her class could, as they all scored too low for the Ministry of Welfare. Akane didn't, and she struggled with the decision left before her, picking the MWPSB only because no one else in her class could, as they all scored too low for the Ministry of Welfare. It's also an important side note that the Ministry of Welfare requires the highest grades, but once she gets in there and starts seeing the work, it is pretty lax and mostly just sitting back and watching other people do the work, and really speaks to what Sibyl wants to do with the brightest citizens it has. But with the option to choose her own life, something no one gets, she says no, wanting the system to read her future like the oracle it claims to be. And why wouldn't she? She was raised entirely under Sibyl, saw all of its graces, and thrived. For her, it's been as perfect as it claims, naturally she'd want that to continue. And this gives meaning to how she reacts to its truth for half of the anime. From the end of episode 1 onwards, she's given reason to question the system. The job it's placed her in feels completely wrong for her, and even her coworkers tell her the same. Looking for purpose, she found a job that said, sit back and watch, let others do the work. She's finally seeing the reality of latent criminals, how terribly they're treated and how normal and innocent they can be. This is something she was lacking before, saying things like,
why would somebody choose to let their hue get so cloudy over receiving treatment?
She has no idea what this world is like for latent criminals, but now she starts to see them in Division 1. Masaoka is just a nice old former detective who paints in his spare time. Yayoi is quiet but helpful and well-meaning. Kagari is fun-loving and goofy, not what you'd expect at all, and Kogami, for how much he fits his role, still shows signs of wanting something much more. The one who treats her the worst of the group is the regular citizen, Ginoza, who acts like she's a stupid child for wanting to treat people like humans and actually do her job. Everything is backwards from how it should be based on her experience so far, and this creates some conflict naturally. Sybil has been right her whole life, but now it's looking much more dark and harsh. But something she says later shows how she comes to terms with this conflict. In episode 5, she says,
it's just another helpful tool for our lives. It's not good or bad. Simply enough, it's just there, so we accept it and use it.
And although that quote is about the net and not Sybil, the fact that she can think that way is one of the most telling aspects of her mentality and one of the most important to understand her. If Sybil is just a tool that humans are using, then that opens up an implication other than Sybil being wrong. The people are wrong. Society is wrong. Now to us this might look crazy, this system is clearly in the wrong, but think about her past again. Fittingly, this is like someone questioning a religion they were raised in. There may be obvious evidence against something to one of us, but its abstract nature allows their faith to prevail. This belief has guided their life on everything from moral code to career choices. When things seemed uncertain, it was a light that was always on. I mean, you don't just give up on this stuff overnight. Sybil later shows they think of themselves as a god, and it shows in its citizens, no different for Akane. Faith in the system creates a workaround, and that means society is wrong. How so? Well, let's look back to episode 1 where we see this principle of hers appear on the fly, showing how natural it is to her. When she stops Masaoka from enforcing the hostage, she never once says Sybil is wrong or the judgment was a mistake.
She's frightened and confused! You don't have to use the Dominator on her! And you're just perfectly fine with shooting an innocent woman?
None of these statements are about the judgment, but how he's choosing to use that judgment. In this way, Sybil isn't wrong, and her past is safe from crumbling out from under her. Now this way of thinking doesn't quite clear her entirely though. She still has other problems that intertwine with the questioning of this world's God. For some time after things kick off, she questions her purpose in the world, wondering what she can do at a job where her point is to write reports on how other people did the work. And when she tries to do more, it only finds her met with resistance from nearly all sides. The only thing that keeps her going through all of this is her talk with Kogami to end episode 2. He remarks on how he may be able to find more purpose than just the role of hunting dog working with her, reinforces her idea of putting justice before duty, and shows himself as a man with purpose outside of his meager means, most notably with the quote,
"Still have unfinished business. I won't let it. Nothing's gonna stop me until it's settled."
In a world of complacency, she sparked the fire of a man who says no. More than likely, the first time she's ever seen something like this. And for someone looking for her own purpose, this is a powerful moment. I think this, more than anything, except maybe them abs, explains her attachment to Kogami. Sure, she's logicked Sybil into a state of purity in her head, but she hasn't done so with her purpose. And in this world, questioning purpose means questioning the system. The simple act of disliking your placement gives backing to the idea that Sybil is flawed. But she could easily believe this is her fault, something in line with every time she blames herself in Season 1. No matter what though, there's some doubt in her mind, and Kogami is a potential course on how to remedy that issue. Someone with a self-chosen purpose, something she wasn't strong enough to start yet. He's non-complacent, highlighting the opposite quality in her life until this point. A man whose fate was determined, yet he fights against it, inspiring a woman whose fate was left open, yet she tries to contain it. In the same breath, he embraces his hunting dog position, seen in episode 3 and with Makashima. But I covered that before, so card on screen now if you want more Kogami. But for us here, it just means that Akane can't really rely on him either. Essentially, the internal conflict isn't going anywhere. Sybil can't be wrong, but her purpose feels either so wrong or meaningless. All around her, free thinkers are punished, but it's for the good of society? Not to mention that these free thinkers become closer to her than her equally ranked colleague. But they're also using Sybil to punish these people in a wrong way, so what's really right and true here? Maybe we'll find it through Kogami, but he becomes so obsessed with the material aspect of his situation and leaves her in the end. Without ever shoving it in our faces, Psycho-Pass slips complete and utter internal conflict into Akane's character, and it's downright masterful. And all of this combined comes to a head in episode 11 as she faces Makashima for the first time. It's a visual element as well, but one of the most telling actions in this scene is her training of the Dominator. It's locked on Makashima the entire time, even as it presents its worthlessness again and again. What he's doing is wrong. No matter his motives, he's taking others' lives, something anyone would call a crime. Yet Sybil, the all-knowing being, can't judge him right here, even as he does so again. This is the first time the system has been downright wrong in front of Akane's face, and she tries to trust it until the very end, never dropping her useless tool. But we also see her conflict here. If she truly believed in it entirely, then she would never have needed to pick up the hunting gun and fire. The very act of holding it means there was some doubt in her mind. She misses, shocked and stressed by the dire situation, but also because of the implications this action brings. She's been complacent her whole life, but seeks purpose. She wants to believe in her god, but is also failing in front of her. This is a decision which rewrites her entire life. If Sybil is wrong, then what have all of her decisions been? What is her real purpose? What is anyone's, all of her old and new friends alike, protected and persecuted under the same law that now shows itself as flawed? No one could countenance this in an instant, and so she can't fire true, only a meek attempt to show she tried while clinging to her life so far. But to give credit to her and lay the groundwork of her changed ideals, she does stick to her morals. Most tellingly, she says,
I can't do that. It's not my decision. That isn't how it works.
On shooting Makashima herself, all the more reason she doesn't aim true. In the same way she respects the enforcers as people, she values all human life as something too worthwhile for one to judge alone. This action is also because Sybil wasn't just a tool that was there, but one society chose to embrace. To her, society is a contract. We give up certain liberties and freedoms, and in exchange receive safety, purpose, and human contact. In the Psycho-Pass world, society took this to the extreme and gave up many freedoms for extreme benefit. With the abandonment of most other laws, something we can see from this Masaoka quote,
Hate to tell you, it's been years since we've had juvenile law.
We see that Sybil's will is society's will, the laws they follow for this benefit. Going against it isn't as simple as it may seem. She allows the values of her fellow people to outweigh her own desires as an ideal citizen. Shooting Makashima is so much more than just nervousness or inexperience. It's a total recall of her past, her future, and her most fervent ideals. This crafts even more of a case against Sybil in her head. Not only did it wrong her, but it misrepresented the contract everyone unknowingly signed, the same one she couldn't betray. The safety and purpose it claimed to provide were there, but not to the degree they touted. Society's will has been misrepresented. She personally rises above the system not just here, but also later when they attempt to go against their own judgment for Kogami and try to enforce him rather than paralyze him. I mean, it's almost insane that a single woman, Akane, is being more ideal than the Sybil system here. These facts, along with Makashima's accurate reads like,
Get up off of the sidelines and for once lay claim to your own soul,
light a fire under Akane and bring front her dormant confidence. We saw it before as she enforced Kogami on day 1, stood up to Genoza episodes later and more, but now it doesn't recede back again. She's always had this confidence there, but she's been a follower, not a leader. Now that Sybil is wrong, now that Kogami is going against her, now that Genoza has shown himself as weak, she has no one left to follow. She becomes confident because she has to. She has to become a leader in this instant, to avenge her friends, to save society, to do everything she wants to do. Everything comes together in this moment with Makashima and the riots that follow, where he exhibits Sybil's flaws to everyone. Crazed citizens murdering each other in a flood of disinformation and fear show God as a joke and fully demonstrate its breach of contract. Despite their actions, taking group will into their own hands and killing, Akane doesn't blame society anymore. She says they're all victims, the people who couldn't imagine murder happening around them and those who committed it in self-defense as well. Listen to what she says about both groups.
They say they couldn't understand what they were seeing. I don't think we can judge them. Someone getting killed right in front of you? You can't imagine it. Yeah, they're average citizens. They wouldn't have turned violent if they hadn't been so afraid.
This confidence and action isn't just her hating Sybil now and going against it, this is experience. She was their model citizen, following blindly and accepting their rule, looking for purpose in them and more. More than anyone else, she understands the weakness and flaws of the world around her, the one people live in, ignorant and blissful. This doesn't mean they were never wrong. They were complacent, allowed themselves to be contained in something near meaningless, and never confirmed they were using the tool of Sybil right or that it wasn't broken. But she can't blame them, understanding exactly how they think and feel as she once did. Masaoka once again puts this best.
It's like she accepts things as they are. She acknowledges society, then forgives it, then moves on.
She's not blaming people for not wanting more when they never knew there was more to want. She even had that something more and threw it away for ignorant bliss. This is why she doesn't seek immediate destruction like Makashima aims for. People still chose parts of this life and simply lack the understanding that these main characters have. Then, even as it presents herself to her, this dark amalgamation of criminal minds that judges from the shadows, she maintains this stance. In her most emotional moments, facing the very god that condemned her friend Yuki to death, she still doesn't break. It's inhuman, but claiming to be humanity's will. It's biased, yet claiming neutrality. Says it transcends ethics, yet invokes their appeal. Despite the obvious flaws though, Sybil is right when they say,
Akane Tsunemori possesses a sense of purpose that is shared by the Sybil system.
They each live to protect society in their own ways, where she has less bias, but also less power. Tearing down the system means tearing down part of society, yet leaving it alive means ignoring the truth of people's will. So there's only one thing left. Evolution, bringing enlightenment to the forefront of society's furthest reaches and moving beyond a false god. She understands people's flaws firsthand and seeks to use that to push her resolution through. This shift in mindset gets doubled down on as she has interactive flashbacks to her friends, Kogami and Makashima. Her faux pas with her friends and Kogami originally were quite telling, as she embodied both the old want for purpose and the cattle of Sybil. Originally viewing it as sort of a pain to choose, now she expresses its importance.
I feel like maybe it's a blessing and a luxury for me to be able to worry about having so many opportunities.
She continues with Makashima, saying she might understand him now on free will, but also refuting his judgment of value, saying,
I don't think the important thing was the final verdict of good or evil. I feel like it was to think about yourself.
and stressing the importance of connection and happiness. And finally with Yuki, her memories ask Akane if she thought her friend was happy, living with everything taken care of for her, never having to decide what was important. Her response being,
I think you could have become happy. You could have searched for the answer at any time. Anybody can.
and this boils down to a word: awareness. Awareness of oneself, why you're happy and who you are, regardless of the reasons. And also awareness of society, of the contract you make to achieve this happiness and awareness. Because she rightly states later that laws are just a man-made construction. They aren't natural or concrete, not real barriers, but simply a collection of ideas that we've crafted. They're fragile, weak, and depend upon the people, like she says. If everyone stopped following them, they would cease to exist. They need us more than we need them. The law is a collection of hopes and dreams for a better society, so people do have to protect it. If they don't and allow it to fall, then they waste the dreams of those before them. Or if they give it too much, let it run free with no oversight and take whatever it needs, then Sybil is what happens. As an extreme take on the contract, it stole more than it gave and forced an opposite state of awareness. complacency, something Akane knows too well. She's been those who allow oppression on themselves and seen those who fight with vigor against the state. She's loved someone who ignored society for himself and hated someone who society ignored, but tried to bring them the same fate nonetheless. Unlike how the law needs balance, she is the balance between those two poles, one who understands society and its flaws, but won't blame it for letting its hopes and dreams run wild, and one who understands the result of those hopes and dreams and how they defy their very foundation. The picture of evolution, balance, and awareness, confident yet selfless, the ideal citizen at every turn. All of this provides more to her connection with Kogami as well. He's the quintessential one who got away with a philosophical twist. His final acts are everything she goes against. He's blindly following his role because it'll give him what he wants, ignoring society's ideals to instill his own justice, and so on. She's so insistent on catching him, not just because of love, the motivation and inspiration he instilled in her, the skills he taught her, and the moments they shared at their best and worst, but also because he's proof that the law is weak and fragile. He breaks it against all odds, against her will and everyone's. He succeeds as an individual, but ends up as one of the most unhappy, speaking to the very value of society he discards. They're perfect foils to one another, and that extra layer of personality to Akane. And even love can't come between her and these perfect group morals. And then 2 more seasons and a movie happen, and the only good thing I can say about them is they affirm her confidence and goals. I think season 2 does make one good call, and that's having Akane be so independent, often going into dangerous situations alone or as bait. Everyone who's ever influenced her before is gone, hurt her, or misled her. Masaoka was killed, Ginoza was demoted, Kogami broke her heart and left, and Sybil is nothing more than a collection of lies. So it makes sense that she learned to rely on no one and handles Mika so calmly. But there's no time for any deeper meaning to develop in season 2, same with the movie, and she's sidelined for season 3. We could speculate about what she's planning and more, but I already kind of took a stab at that in a previous video, and I don't think there's much brightness for the original cast in season 4. I think Akane got really thematically finished at the end of season 1, and became more of a vessel moving forwards as the series lost consistency. I watched everything again for this video, and there just isn't much to say post 2012, sadly. But maybe I'll take a stab at an alternative season 2 take like I did with Tokyo Ghoul Road A, so let me know if you want to see that down below. Another thing you could let me know if you want to see is, I've been debating, because I've seen a few people suggest it, doing a Masaoka and Ginoza profile. I think because they're more side, I'd lump them together, but that could be another interesting Psycho-Pass video, so let me know if you want to see that down below as well, because I am always 1000% happy to provide more Psycho-Pass. I love this series way too much. But also let me know down below what you thought of this video. Leave a like if you liked it, a dislike if you didn't, so I can check out that video and know what to make in the future and keep providing the best content I can for you. Also, a link to my Discord in the top of the description. If you want to chat anime with some other fans, reach me directly. We have some cool stuff going on down there, and it's a pretty chill hangout that's been pretty chill, to repeat myself and start rambling. But anyway, I'll try to stop rambling, throw up some more Psycho-Pass videos on screen now if you want to check those out, and the subscribe thing if you want to stick around for more of my mad ramblings. But anyway, I'll stop it with those, let you get back on with your day, and just say thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.